triple checking, quadruple checking that I am preaching God's word the way I should be, right? So I end up spending a lot of time doing that, and then catch myself not spending time with God because I have to, right? So self-care at this point looks like intentional quiet time with God, not because I have to teach, not because I, X, Y, Z, but because I need Him right now. So, yeah, I think that's what it is. I wish I could tell you I go out and go horseback riding or do something or go get my nails done. But right now, in this season of life where my family is still adjusting to full time ministry, I mean, I do full time ministry, and my husband works part time for the church as well. So we're constantly there. We're constantly, like I said, picking up kids. He helps me do that too. And we're constantly being dragged everywhere. So quiet, intentional time is my self-care right now. Otherwise, I'd go nuts.
Definitely. What are some of the successes in ministry that you've been able to learn from?
What are some of the successes? You know, um, I would say that watching a student connect with God, that moment that you see the student, right? Because you can be doing discipleship weekly. Sometimes you wonder, like, man, am I reaching this kid? Like, am I really doing what I'm supposed to be doing here? And um, does a kid even care, right, about God at this point in their life, right? Um, and then you have that moment where you can tell it just clicks, whether that be at camp, whether that be in small group, whether that be, I mean, I've had students that have just come to me and just like hugged me and cried. And those moments are so tender because I know that God is doing something in their hearts. And I know that um, sleepless nights, right? A small group leader that may not have the time to disciple as much, right? However, sacrificed a few hours to just be with their students. Those moments are so special because it gives you some fuel and motivates you and reminds you like, okay, all right, Lord, you're in control even when I don't see it or feel it. You're in control and you're doing it despite everything that I may be thinking. So I think those moments when I see them come to Jesus in a raw way at camp, in small group, or even one-on-ones when I have students that just the light bulb turns on. It's just so cool.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And what are some of the failures that you've had in ministry that you've been able to grow from?
I think when I look back at these last 10 months, I would say it's volunteers. And when I say that, I mean what I have to offer to my volunteers. And that has been something that I've had to look back, and as someone who um, I'm, I don't want to say I'm a perfectionist, right? But I am someone who strives to do the best they can. And when I look back, I feel so much conviction when I think, man, I could have done this better. And man, I could have spent so much more time with my volunteers. And wow, like I didn't do this and I didn't do that. However, when I look at that in a healthy way, I go, okay, that is okay. We have, I have time to reflect, to, talk to God, and all right, how can we do this better next year? So I think that's what I would say that one of my failures has been just the way I show up for my volunteers. And I mean, I'm excited because it allows me to look at it in a honest way and make it better.
Definitely. So let's talk about advice and resources. what is some advice you'd give to yourself if you were to start over, or to someone else who's starting fresh? And then what are some resources that you found to be really helpful, some resources that you've created that you use, or anything like that?
Advice: don't bite off more than you can chew. I think I came in super excited, and I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that, and oh, this sounds cool and this sounds cool, and you get so excited for the possibilities, and then can get yourself overwhelmed really quickly when you realize how much there is to do. So I'd say focus on a few things and do those really well rather than spreading yourself so thin, trying to be everything and for everyone. I think that would be a big piece of advice. Also, spend time for yourself. I mean, I have a family. I have 2 kids, and something that convicts me at times is, wow, like sometimes I'm discipling other students more than I have discipled my own children. So that is very convicting in my life, where my daughter has to watch me leave the house physically to go pick up a student from school to go have coffee with them. So also to dedicate, to schedule time for yourself, schedule time for your family, especially those first couple years of ministry, because I think that you're just going to continue to learn and learn and learn and make mistakes and learn from them. So that's what I would say. What was the second question?
Resources. But on that family thing, no, I totally agree. And I've heard it put this way, that God can raise up anyone to be the pastor of these people, but has raised up one person to be the parent of the family.
Absolutely.
Which is very, because, people can get lost in the, like, oh, I'm ministering to so many people, and then, practically abandon their family.
Absolutely.
So, definitely. Yeah.
And it's so easy, because I think that what you're doing in ministry is inherently good. I mean, who's gonna tell you that you're doing something wrong, right? Like, I mean, you're going out, you're picking up kids, you're taking them to church, I mean, it is all so good, and it builds a kingdom. So it's so hard to be real with yourself and ask yourself, like, man, how much time have I actually spent with my child and discipled my own child, right? Yes, and I think that's the biggest thing that I can really contribute to that question. But resources, I mean, obviously there's many resources online, but you really learn the thing when you're doing it. And I think the best resource that I could say is to be discipled. Find yourself someone that is ahead of you, that's been doing this for much longer, that can talk to you, speak life into you, admonish you, right? Like, you need people in your life. You can't do it alone. So yes, resources, school, right? All the things, those are awesome, but you need people ahead of you, beside you, and behind you. So have someone that you're discipling, have someone that you can laugh and just like vent with, right? You need that friend, but you most of all need someone that can disciple you, and someone that you can be real with, and you can say, hey, I am stressed out, because ministry will do that to you. I mean, it is a blessing, but I think anyone that's been in ministry for any length of time can tell you that it can take a toll on you. So to have someone that you can bring that to is so important. So I think that would be I think that's what I would say.
For sure. And in the American culture, and even in the American Christian culture, there's always a temptation to view self-care and being discipled as something that's not productive, and therefore is a waste of time.
Totally.
Have you seen a lot of benefit from doing those things?
Absolutely. the truth is your calendar will lie to you and tell you that you don't have time, right? That they I've struggled with the calendar because I look at I mean my husband and I often look at the calendar and go, how are we going to make this happen? Because although I'm so involved obviously with my church, we still have our own small groups. And for instance, our small groups are on Tuesday nights. And there's been times where me and my husband think, man, you know what? Let maybe we just say no to small groups this season because it would be really nice to just have a couple hours of. And then we look at each other and go, yeah, no, like we have to do this because we need it. We need community. We need discipleship. And so the calendar is going to lie to you and tell you that there's no way. But once you do it, once you are there with whoever you're meeting with, you go, okay, God, thank you. This is exactly what I needed. Also, don't get discouraged. I know that a lot of people may think, well, who's going to disciple me? Don't be afraid to ask. I had, so the person that was discipling me a few years back ended up becoming more of my friend. And I had to really be honest with that and go, wait, this has become more of my friend than someone who is actually actively discipling me. So having to go out and look for someone and asking the Holy Spirit, okay, who are you leading me to, right? And don't be afraid to ask someone, hey, can you disciple me? And there's gonna be people like I've had people say, you know what, I'd love to, but I don't have the time right now. And I love that because they're what I hear when they say no. I hear that I value what you're asking me and I can't commit to that because discipleship is commitment. You can't just expect to be discipled or to disciple and just do it every now and then. Like it should be a regular rhythm in your life. Discipleship should be regular, if not weekly. And some people may go, what? Yes, you have to make time in your calendar at least once a week to really see the fruit of discipleship take place in your life.
Definitely. Yeah, for sure, for sure. I know that when I was talking to a pastor who's up on the mountain, he was saying that like one of the really good ways of having self-care is to just purposefully protect time with your family, have family time, go on dates with your spouse, things like that, because like what we were saying, it's really easy to see things as not productive and therefore not worth the time. But yeah, like what you're saying, living life with other people is not about productivity, it's about availability.
Yes. Yes. That's beautifully put. Absolutely. Absolutely. And God will also what I found is when I sacrifice my time, like God is faithful to like multiply my productivity. I mean, there's been plenty of times where I thought there's absolutely no way that I can do this, but okay, here, Lord, figure it out. And somehow he allowed me to do 4 hours of work in an hour. And I'm like, Lord, thank you, because there's no way I would have done that without you. So I think it's like a really serious trust fall with Jesus.
It's a shame that like the idea of taking a Sabbath is such like a taboo, because when you mention like the word Sabbath, people think, oh, well, you're a legalist. You're one of the Judaizers from the New Testament. I gotta watch out for you. But no, it's almost like God has made us for a rhythm of resting in Him and being recharged enough to actually go and work. So yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah, and that's something I love about my church is our leaders are constantly reminding us to take a Sabbath. Constantly, especially in our busy season, right? Easter, right? The launch of the school year, Christmas, all these different events that we have going on. I they are always reminding us to Sabbath. And that is actually why our church is intentional about not scheduling things on Saturdays, because they want us to Sabbath on Saturday. Another wonderful thing that they also do is knowing that we put in so much time during Christmas, we have a dark week afterwards. We did revival for the first time in February, and they gave us another dark week in July because of that. So I think having a church that sees the value, and not even the value, but it's biblical, right? So that is very important because you're constantly hearing it, you're constantly being reminded. And I know that some churches can get lost in productivity.
Definitely.
So I think that's important to have leaders that value it, that speak of it, and in doing so, give you permission to do it. Sometimes we just need permission. I know that I'm someone that can get tunnel visioned and will plow and just like plow through work, and that's all I'll do. And so I love the fact that I have people in my life that I look up to that will ask me, when was the last time you Sabbath? I mean, and that's another important aspect of discipleship, right? Someone that's going to disciple you will ask you, when was the last time you Sabbath? And you better have an answer for that.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
yeah.
Yeah, and apart from self-care and accountability like that, burnout is always a season away, which is a scary reality for pastors who are stretched so thin.
Yeah. Especially since COVID, because staff numbers are down, right? And there's such a restructuring that took place in all churches that I do see that. I see it in the health industry. I see it in different like pockets, right? But I think churches have been really affected by it. So more than likely, when you look at any church staff member, they are very likely doing more than one job. Like you don't even know, right? Like you're looking at this person and they are very likely taking over all these other positions. So yes, burnout, you're only one season away. I'd say that you're one step away of burnout at times. So yes, taking your time off, take a Sabbathing, doing things with your family, even if it feels like you don't have the time, just do it. I think that in part is also trusting God that He's gonna allow you to finish what you need to finish.
And it seems like your church very much values self-care and Sabbathing and things like that. I imagine sometimes it's difficult to balance the productivity that's expected for working somewhere, for being paid, with also the self-care that's required of being stretched so thin.
Yes, definitely. That's where I really recommend, right, like organizing your work week, right? I mean, if we're aimlessly doing ministry as well, we're very likely to not have time for these things. So I say, like, if we have budgets for our finances, we should probably have a budget for our schedules and ensure that we can schedule things in, because me and my family heavily rely on our calendars. If we don't schedule something in, it just doesn't happen. Like it really just does not happen. So scheduling that intentional time, and scheduling that vacation, scheduling that time with my kid, right? I'm gonna disciple my child on this date at this time. Like, I think those things are important, especially for those that struggle with this, because some people have no problem Sabbathing and resting, but then there's others that have a really hard time, and you can make your job an idol really easily that way.
Yeah, and I imagine it's also difficult to schedule that kind of availability while also keeping the spontaneity of it. Um, do you ever like schedule yourself out, block out 6 hours or something in a day where you're just available for people? Do you ever do anything like that?
I would say I don't think I've done it in an intentional way like that.
Mm.
Um, and when you say people, are you speaking people like in my personal life or for
Either
in general?
whoever needs you at that time.
I honestly, I feel that that is any time, to be very honest.
Hmm.
The people in my life know that they have access to me. The kids that I'm discipling one on one know that they have access to me. Um, and when I would say so that I do, that I have um, generally a kind of an open door policy
Hmm.
for my friends, for people I'm discipling, for my colleagues. Um, yeah.
Definitely. Well, I don't have any more questions. Anything
All
else you'd like
right.
to say?
You know, um, ministry is for everyone. And I have to constantly remind myself of that. Um, that we're all called to ministry and that it's a blessing. Um, but spend time with your family. Spend time with the people that you love, because you will get burned out if you don't. And
Hmm.
it's so important. I can't stress that enough. And I'm still learning and I'm still having to figure this thing out. But I can't stress enough. Spend time with your family.
Hmm.
It's gonna get done, right? Like your work is gonna get done. God is gonna meet you in that place where you feel that you just can't do it.
Definitely. Well,
Thank
thank you
you.
very much, Genesis.